lanterns just keeps getting better and better. I dig the second episode probably as much as the first one. Now John meets Zoe again, but there's no freaking snicky this time. But the tension is there. I think Zoe is actually a character from the comics. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm getting, hey, remember me from the comics vibe from her. John gets caught. Let's start with this. Hal sends John to get his power lantern. He's like, I'm running out of power, man. I need you to go get my lantern. And he sends him on a regular everyday plane, which I don't know how he booked that, because he doesn't have any money. I mean, he's generating money with his ring. So did he do that and steal a plane ticket also? And if he did, then John should know about it. I mean, I know about it just sitting here, so he should know about it. Or did he steal John's card to make the plane ticket? Because it was done in advance, and John didn't know about it. So I'm wondering where that dude got the money from, because he's living rich and he's living in squalor at the exact same time. We'll probably come back to that. But John is sent to get his ring, or his lantern. He finds the lantern. He also finds some uniforms, several of them, apparently. And he takes one to bring it back. When he leaves the house, Hal Jordan's house, to try to bring it back, he gets jumped on. And he fights. You know, he's a big guy. He's like 7 feet tall or something like that, 300 pounds of muscle. He's a big dude. So he fights. But immediately you know that these are not regular everyday human beings. But they toss him a beating. He wakes up in a van. Earlier, he had made a construct, supposedly because he was wearing the ring. He gives the ring back. The construct is still there. It's a bird. You can see by Hal Jordan's face that he doesn't understand how the bird still exists if John doesn't have the ring, because he's not using it. How's a ring there? The ring manifests your will in different ways, mostly with constructs. It can make bubbles, it can help you talk to other people in other languages and all other kinds of good stuff. There's a bunch of stuff it can do, but primarily lanterns use it to make constructs. With Hal Jordan, he makes giant fists and stuff like that. With Kyle, he's an artist, so he makes beautiful women doing things, picking people up or whatever, whatever his mind imagines. John is a military person. He's a Marine Corps sniper, hoorah, and he is also an architect. So he has a deep knowledge of how things are constructed, how they work. This flips to that touches this lever rolls the doohickey hits the flux capacitor, and boom, time travel, baby. He knows how things work. So he has a deeper knowledge than most lanterns on constructs. Also, in the comics, John encounters an energy called the God Storm, which he subsequently absorbs into his body. It gives him mastery over the green, which is the Green Lantern power. He doesn't need a ring anymore, man. He doesn't need a power battery. He doesn't need none of that stuff. He can just with the force of his mind, he can just make constructs. In the comics, in the show, he makes a construct again, supposedly because he's wearing the ring. The ring is taken off his hand. He gives the ring back. Construct is still there. And Green Lantern's like, how's that bird still there? And he doesn't tell him that's almost impossible. But these guys that catch him, toss him a beating, they have him in a room. He's tied up, and they ask him, the first thing they ask him is like, what's up with that bird? How is Jordan constructing that bird from so far away? And he's like, he's not, I am. And they're like, but you ain't got no ring. And he's like, hey man, is that what you wanted to know? And they tell him how incredibly difficult it would be to do the thing that he is currently doing. So now he knows that he is basically on a different level than Jordan, because Jordan needs the ring. Most of the Green Lanterns need the ring. All of the Green Lanterns need a ring. Mogo doesn't really need it. I mean, it's kind of wrapped around his body, I guess, but so he's making constructs without the ring. Me personally, I would have made a construct of a bunch of military dudes and give these guys the business. But he doesn't. He just sits in a chair with his bird, and they tell him that they're from a planet that was attacked by the manhunters. And he's like, am I supposed to know what that means? So they explain the manhunters to him. The Guardians of the Galaxy, without getting into great big detail, they were a race of people who evolved into 3 different races of people. The ones that we know as the Guardians are, of course, the Guardians. They're one of the 3 races. They became the Guardians, and they took it upon themselves to guard the universe from threats for whatever. They're kind of the opposite of Marvel's Watchers. Marvel's Watchers watch, but they're not supposed to interfere. The Guardians watch, but they specifically interfere. And they cast their own version of legality and justice. Something I've always thought about that though, man. If a specific planet has a justice system in place and everyone on that planet understands it, but it contradicts what the Guardians want, do they not interfere because that's their people's own choice, their will? Or do they say, nah, y'all aren't doing what we want, so we're sending a Guardian or a Green Lantern there to whip up on you? I don't know. I'm not sure. But the Manhunters were created by the Guardians. They're like, we'll make these robots. They'll go out there and they will cast our judgment on the universe. But they weren't made specifically perfect. They were more like Terminators, given an order. They go to a planet, they see somebody doing something wrong, they give them that work. So depending on what you've done, they're probably just going to see it as wrong and give you fingers across the throat. So the Guardians were like, well, we can't do that. That's crazy. So they go to destroy the Manhunters. The Manhunters scatter through the cosmos, and eventually they are all annihilated. Sort of. Some of them roll up on what I'm assuming is Atrocitus. He's got a different name in the show, Antine or something like that. I'm assuming they rolled up on his planet because the story he tells and Atrocitus' story in the comic book is almost identical. The Manhunters show up, they're wiping people out, they try to fight the Manhunters leave. Unbeknownst to them, they left a sleeper agent on their planet who eventually destroys their planet, all except a few people, Atrocitus being one of them. Atrocitus gains the power of the red, like the Green Lanterns got the green, he gets the red. It is rage. Instead of willpower for the green, there's different color lanterns, different color rings. They all have a particular emotional spectrum attached to the ring. With the red, it is rage. if you're filled with rage and revenge and vengeance and you need to get somebody, you might get a ring. Green Lantern's ring will ask you, are you afraid? You'll be like, nah. You might get that ring. With Atrocitus, his ring will ask you if you're filled with rage. If you are and it feels it, you might get a ring. So Atrocitus is the first one to get one of these rings. And he is filled with rage. He's gurgling and spitting red flame goo out of his mouth. All of them do that. That's how they're frothing at the mouth. Blah, 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 all that crap's coming out because they're insane with rage. But Atrocitus maintains his intellect plus his rage. So he's full on, what if the Incredible Hulk had a Green Lantern ring and just was like angry all of the time? You pretty much get Atrocitus. So he tells this story in a show that mimics what happened in a comic book. So it's got to be the same dude. And it turns out that the first alien they meet and Stewart interrogates in the first episode was one of this guy's people. And that guy said, we're here for vengeance. So these people are mad at the Guardians and the Green Lanterns for sending a manhunter to their planet. They think that the manhunters are being protected by the Green Lanterns because Abin Sur shows up. And he's like, don't worry about it, dog. I got him. And he uses his Green Lantern ring and he zaps the manhunter. He's like, I'm going to take him with me, boss. And he leaves. And they're like, we don't trust that. So they track him down and they find manhunter energy on the planet. So apparently what happened, there's a thing called a retcon in comics where they take a story and they go back to a certain part and they change something. In the story, Abin Sur coming to Earth wasn't just a simple crash landing, which never made sense because his ring still worked. It found Jordan. Jordan has shown that he can use the ring even with just a little bit of power in it. Could have saved himself. Abin Sur could have saved himself, but he didn't. Even as a little kid, I've been collecting comic books since I was a little bit kid. I've always wondered if you got enough power in your ring that protects you and you can do anything you can imagine. First, why are you in a spaceship if all of the Green Lanterns just fly through space? Second, why didn't it protect you? They may have answered that with the retcon. The reason that he was on Earth, the reason his ring couldn't protect him, the reason he was in a spaceship, and the reason he crash landed in the comics, he was transporting Atrocitus. Atrocitus breaks free, knuckles up on Abin Sur, beats him down and escapes. Abin Sur's like, oh, I'm dying, that was a terrible beating. Ring, go get a guy. That's what happened now, after the retcon. I think something similar happened, except it was a manhunter, because Abin Sur shows up and is like, I got him, don't worry about it. And he's taking him somewhere. I think that manhunter may have overpowered him, and then Abin Sur ended up on Earth because Hal Jordan says Earth isn't even really on the Green Lantern's radar. It's like bug tussle. It's someplace that they wouldn't come. You know, humans, they're not evolved enough that we would go to protect them. You know, if you're an environmentalist and you're out there saving the whales, you're not going to go underwater and be like, we got to save the algae too, because it's a smaller life form than what you're protecting. The Guardians of the Galaxy out there protecting whales. Earth is algae. They're like, I'm not thinking about that. So they don't protect Earth because it's so low on their radar that they don't even have a guy out here. You know, Earth doesn't have a guy. But when Abin Sur crash lands, possibly because of this particular manhunter, his ring grabs up the closest guy, who they're on Earth, so he was Earth. he gets Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan, after getting the ring and meeting the Guardians and figuring out, I live in Bug Tussle. Why was there anybody out there? He starts to wonder about it and becomes a mystery 20 years ago, before the show starts. He's wondered about that. That's why he had a sentient version of himself checking out this area, because he's like, something's wrong here. That dude shouldn't have been here. Why was he in a spaceship? How did he crash land? His ring was still working. It didn't make sense to him either. So he figures it out, or he figures something's wrong. So that's the mystery. Abin Sur on Earth, possibly with a manhunter. The manhunter escapes, but for some reason can't leave Earth. I guess their technology, it's Bug Tussle, their technology isn't advanced enough that he could leave, and all of the other manhunters are dead. He ain't got no friends. He can't call nobody to come pick him up. He can't get space Uber. There's actually a cabbie that drives through space. That's another video. But there's a cab driver that drives through space, and he's pretty much space Uber, but he can't call nobody, so he's stuck on Earth. So he changed himself to look like a human. Now we have to wonder, which one is he? So there's a murder mystery. Someone possibly killed Hal Jordan. There's a mystery about Abin Sur. Why was he on Earth? There's a mystery about who is the manhunter. I've got ideas. So many things were given to us in this episode. The sheriff is on the phone and she's talking in the first episode. And she's talking clearly to another cop, another officer, another person that does some type of law enforcement. And her last name is Kane. I think she's connected to Batman, man. I think so. I think it's a breadcrumb for Batman. Because Batman's cousin, who was also rich, is Batwoman. And she's a superhero too. She wears a fake red wig, so people don't exactly know who she is. But I think this woman, the sheriff, is related to her. Or maybe she used to be Batwoman and suffered an injury, and that's why she's in this town, because she says, I moved here from Gotham. That's a big drop. That's a mic drop. Boom! Mic drop. She moved here from Gotham. I think she might have been Batwoman. And then she got hurt. She ends up leaving. And, or maybe even Bruce told her she had to get out of town. The Joker's looking for you, or whatever. But she leaves. She ends up in Rushville, man. And she's very much like her cousin. She's very controlling of her area. Batman doesn't like other heroes or whatever, outside cops and feds and stuff coming into his territory. That's his hunting ground. The sheriff does not really like he's Green Lantern. He's a superhero with magical powers, man. He can fly through space. That dude has met aliens. But she doesn't want him in her town. That kind of sounds like her potential cousin to me, man. Zoe, the woman that John had his little fling with, that's clearly not just a regular person. Something's going on. The sheriff isn't who she claims to be. Zoe is clearly not who she claims to be. I don't think William is who he claims to be either, because he keeps talking about somebody, a benefactor, that made him sign a NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. But I think their NDA is, do what I say, I'll make you rich, or whack, you and your family. Now that's something that a manhunter could tell him. I'm going to make you rich because I'm a manhunter. You'll do what I say. I got this great technology, man. I'm going to help you build this technology that'll identify other aliens. The reason that you can identify them is because that's what I used to do. I used to fly through space and identify different aliens. I'm going to bring you a little bit of that tech, because they have that tech throughout the city, apparently. A lot of doorways you walk through, it looks like they're metal detectors. They are not. I mean, they're in Nebraska. You know, 1 out of 3 people is probably strapped. So it's not really a metal detector, it's an alien detector, which Hal figures out because he drags an alien through it, one of those dead aliens, checking it out. I mean, I'm pretty sure that was a coincidence, but he pulled it through and it's like, bing, and he's like, I mean, he pulls it through again, it's like, bing, and he's like, alien detector. But it's a technology he says he's unfamiliar with. I think because it existed before him and now it doesn't exist anymore because the Manhunters are dead. I think that's Manhunter tech. And I think that William has that tech, not because he himself is a Manhunter, but because he's got a Manhunter as his benefactor, who could be the gentleman pretending to be his son. That might not be his son. They could say it's his son, but I don't think it is, because that son, his age would make the current wife very young to have birthed that child. So that child was probably around already when she married the guy, the one that plays the lawyer. And she's like, oh, let's get married. He's like, yeah, let's get married. I see you got a son. Yeah, he's like 15, 18, 20 years old. Oh, that's cool. The reason that she would have met him already with a child is because that child is actually the Manhunter. Usually in mysteries like this with whodunits, it's almost always someone, it's the butler. Who would suspect the butler? It's the cook. What? The cook? Watch the movie Clue. It was a couple of different people it could have been. In this movie, it's almost always a person you don't suspect. I think it might be the son, who is actually a 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 year old Manhunter. That's what I think. Also, John uses the power of the Green Lantern ring without actually having a Green Lantern ring. Hold that thought. The Green Lantern's bosses, the Guardians, tell John Stewart's father to train him a certain way to have no fear, because he's up for getting a position as a Green Lantern. How did the father know about that when his kid was just a kid? He had to have been told about this a long time ago. I think that's also why there's no wife in the picture. The wife was like, man, you want to train our son to be a space alien super cop? I'm out of here. Where's my bag at? Those my shoes under the table? And she just left. So it was up to just the father. And he has to be extremely strict because he's a single parent. The mom's gone. He also has to take John and make sure he's fearless. It's ridiculous to shoot at your son, to try to shoot him in the face. But I also think that he may have known he wouldn't hit his son because deep down his son has the God Storm, the energy that he absorbed a long time ago. It's in him. So even if the bullet was coming towards him, it would have instinctively, boink, knocked the bullet out of the way if he'd have missed. Because think about it. To prove a point, any point, would you shoot at your son's head in the hopes that you hit an apple sitting on his head? If you're wrong, if you miss, if you sneeze, if your hand wiggles, 100 things could happen and you no longer have your son. Why would he risk that? Even if he's I was in the Marine Corps. I was a pretty good shot. But there is no way I'm shooting at anybody's face, let alone a loved one. You know, if you shoot somebody in the face, you are going to jail forever. You shoot a loved one in the face, you're still going to jail forever. But you're going to carry that ghost close with you forever. And the guilt, the pain, why would you risk that unless you knew there was no way you were going to actually shoot your son in the face? Also, that would mean that there would have been some type of demonstration of that power previously. He is positive that he wasn't going to shoot his son in the face. And then he asked him, "Are you afraid?" And he's like, "No, sir." Pow! Were you scared? No, sir. Deep down, he knows he's protected. The power of the God storm is already in him, and probably it was there before the Guardians intervened, but possibly the Guardians hid that power in John on Bug Tussle, where nobody of any spatial importance goes. They hid it in him, which is possible too. So either they hid it in him and they had to nurture him because they didn't want potentially Parallax, Sinister, or the Manhunters to get that power, or it found its way into him some kind of way. The Guardians became aware of it, and now they had to nurture him so he grew into something that they believe they can control. But either way, you have to wonder, why is John being trained to be a Green Lantern when, as soon as you die, the Green Lantern ring finds the next person in succession? You know, there's a list that it mentally has, and it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, if not you, we're going to get Fred. Oh, Fred died of old age. That's crazy. Let's get Bobby. It knows pretty much where it's going. And if it's got a succession of like 17 people, but the closest one is number 14, 14 is your guy. If number 11 becomes, you know, goes crazy, but he's the closest one, it'll probably go to 12, because 11 is crazy now. He crazy now. It has an idea of what it's going to do. It is, in fact, sentient. And I think that the God storm is within Jordan, which is how he was able to construct. I don't think he needed the ring to do it. He was wearing the ring, so he tried. I mean, have you ever sat down and said to yourself, hey, let me make a bird? You never do that. But if you had a magic wish ring on that you knew would do it, you would try it because you're wearing the magic wish ring. I don't think the ring had anything to do with it, especially since it was only at like 5% power. But he created the bird. And then even taking the ring off, the bird was still there. He didn't need the ring to do that. Flying around, bird was with him. When he landed and was at Jordan's house, bird was with him. When those people that I'm pretty sure worked for Atrocitus attacked him, the bird was pecking at him, trying to defend him. He didn't say, "Bird, defend me." It just did it because I believe it is sentient, much like the God storm that's within him, which is another reason why there's one ring. People keep saying Earth. There's one ring in a space sector. This sector where Earth resides is sector 2814. One ring to rule them all. There's one ring there, and Guy Gardner is currently wearing the ring. So the ring was like, oh, okay, Hal Jordan, I got you. Boink! Hal Jordan got the ring. Hal Jordan, excommunicado. So the ring was like, oh, okay, who's next? John Stewart? He was on the list, but he didn't need a ring because he's got the God storm. So instead, we're going to go to the next guy. Who's that? Oh, that's Guy Gardner. Boink! That's why in the Superman movie, Guy Gardner had the ring. He didn't say a ring, because he would have known if there were other rings on Earth. He didn't say a ring, meaning multiple ones. He said the ring. Now in the comic books, several people have rings. To be honest, one of those rings came from another dimension, but the rest of them, they all have rings. A bunch of humans. But in the movies and the TV show, it's only the one guy. The one Green Lantern. It was Hal Jordan, now it's Guy Gardner. But in an upcoming new Superman movie, the Green Lantern is John Stewart without a ring, because he can use the power without the ring. He's got the God storm inside of him. There's several different things that will allow you to have the power of a ring without having a ring. Parallax is another one. And I think Hal Jordan may return as Parallax, which is an evil yellow lantern type entity that initially in the comics, Hal Jordan just went crazy and started killing off Green Lanterns, and all Thanos style started collecting rings, and he had 10 of them. And for some reason, his wishes were 10 times more powerful. I never understood how Green Lanterns get more powerful. I mean, all of the green ones all have the same power. What I think of, I can create. But they keep getting stronger. I got multiple rings, now I'm stronger. You got the same power. What you think of, you can create. Well, I've got more juice than any other lantern has ever had. Dude, what you think of, you can create. It's the exact same thing, but more powerful. I can lift 100 pounds. Whoa, you're superhuman. I can lift 100 pounds if I eat my Wheaties. That's the same power, dude. I can lift 100 pounds without even working out. The same power, man. It's the exact same thing. You're saying the same thing. But Parallax, originally, because he had the 10 rings, he could, I don't know, he was going to try to recreate his city that got wiped out. And it was Hal Jordan. He became nuts. Later, they did a retcon, remember that word, and they said, oh no, he was actually possessed by an entity called Parallax. We can't get rid of Hal Jordan. He's Green Lantern, baby. We can't do that. And then later they made another retcon and they said that Sinestro, Thal Sinestro, in fact, I'm gonna give him his full name. Thal Sinestro implanted the entity called Parallax into Jordan, which made him evil and crazy. Sinestro's in this show, Sinestro. And Sinestro tells Jordan that if there is in fact a manhunter on Earth, it's the second deadliest thing you have to compete with. They hint that he's talking about losing his position to John Stewart, but we already know that he's going to live another 10 years before he takes that, that red dot to the forehead. So I don't think saying, man, you only got another 10 years before whatever. You ever see that show, the men that stare at sheep? When the guy says, I can kill people with my mind. And he says, yeah, do it. And he's like, there, it's done. He's like, I'm not dead. He said, yeah, but in 10 years, you're just going to drop dead. And I was like, what? What kind of superpower is that? So if Sinestro was saying that John Stewart was his problem, but not for another 10 years, that didn't make any sense. He must have been talking about something that was looming. And Sinestro's here, captured by Jordan, in jail. He might have wanted to stick Parallax in him some kind of way. And I mean, it happened in the comics, and it happened in the cartoon movie, Green Lantern, Beware My Power. He regurgitates the entity and it goes into Jordan, and Jordan becomes evil, becomes Parallax. So I think we're going to get a Sinestro, Manhunters. I think Zoe is going to be a love interest plus a threat. We'll see before I say it out loud. And Parallax. So I think there's several, because what happens here is going to be part of the future of the DC. It's going to be a thing that affects upcoming shows. Manhunters could affect upcoming shows. That's a villain that could, or a series of villains that could affect the future. If the big bad is someone other than, Williams' big bad is someone other than a Manhunter, that could affect the future. Parallax, a superpowered Green Lantern, Yellow Lantern type entity, could affect the future, especially if it can affect the minds of other people and zap them. You know, who knows? But I'm curious. Can't wait till next Sunday, man, so I can see what happens next. Man, it's a good show. I skipped a lot of stuff. I wanted to say so much more, but this video is long enough as it is, and I will give lanterns. And I think it's called lanterns and not Green Lanterns because there are more than just the Green Lanterns. The hotel that they're living in gets zapped by an energy ray that's red. Red lanterns. They've showed flashes of things happening in yellow. I think there's going to be yellow lanterns. Zoe might be purple. I think there's multiple lanterns, so I think that's why it wasn't called Green Lanterns, just lanterns. Because I think this show, even if it's not a big bad that goes beyond the show, the fact that they're opening up the cosmic universe with multiple lanterns would be a thing that drags the DC universe into the future. But I would give lanterns 10 bags of popcorn. 10 bags of popcorn. So far, at least. That's what I think about that. More importantly, what do you think about that? Now that you had a chance to look at the video, let's talk about it some more in the comments. And as always, if you like the video, if you like the content, subscribe. And then like.
Popcorn passport. Get your popcorn passport.